"Stop him! That kid stole my wallet." The voice was sharp, angry, loud enough to turn heads in the crowded plaza. Jaylen froze mid-step. He was standing barely 10 feet from the man now, a well-dressed white man in his 50s, pointing straight at him, eyes blazing. In Jaylen's hand, a brown leather wallet. Gasps followed. Phones lifted into the air. A woman nearby murmured, "Unbelievable. Broad daylight." Another whispered, "Someone call the cops." Jaylen's mouth opened, but no words came out. His fingers tightened around the wallet, not out of guilt, but fear. He hadn't stolen it. He'd picked it up from the sidewalk near the fountain. He'd seen the man drop it. He'd called after him, but the man hadn't heard. So Jaylen ran. And now this. Before he could speak, the man marched toward him, grabbing him by the arm. "Empty your pockets," he barked. "Give it back now." Jaylen flinched. "I was trying to—" "Trying to what? Run off with it? Thought no one would notice?" A small crowd had gathered. A security guard jogged over, hand already near his radio. Someone started filming. Jaylen looked around, heart pounding. His voice came out barely above a whisper. "I was just trying to give it back." But no one heard him. Or worse, they didn't care. The security guard stepped between them, palm out. "Sir, please let go of the kid." "He stole my wallet," the man insisted, voice firm, chest rising. "I want him detained until the police arrive." Jaylen stood still, shoulders tense, eyes wide. In his mind, everything blurred: the crowd, the noise, the pressure behind his eyes. He looked down at the wallet in his hand. It was still closed, still intact. He hadn't even opened it. The security guard radioed something in, then turned to Jaylen. "Son, do you have anything else on you? Any ID?" Jaylen shook his head slowly. "No, sir. I'm 13. I don't have ID." "Name?" "Jaylen. Jaylen Brooks." The man scoffed. "Of course he doesn't have ID." Jaylen flinched again but said nothing. Not because he was guilty, but because he'd been here before. Not here exactly, but in moments like this. Moments where speaking made it worse, where defending yourself only made you louder, and when you were black, being louder was a risk. He thought of his mom, her long shifts at the hospital, the way she always said, "If something goes wrong, you stay calm. You keep your hands visible. You don't give them a reason." So that's what he did. He stayed still. He held the wallet out gently toward the guard. "I found it near the fountain," he said quietly. "I was trying to return it." The guard paused. For the first time, someone looked at Jaylen with something other than suspicion. A flicker of doubt. And in that flicker, the real story was waiting to be heard. Jaylen Brooks wasn't the kind of kid people usually noticed. He didn't cause trouble, didn't talk back, didn't run with the loud crowd at school. At 13, he was quieter than most, not shy, just thoughtful. He liked books more than basketball, headphones more than hallway noise. Most afternoons, after school let out, he'd walk 2 blocks past the corner store and spend an hour at the library. It was his sanctuary. The chairs were soft, the air was cool, and the librarian, Mrs. Adams, always set aside the new arrivals for him. She'd smile and say, "Found something you might like, Jay." He always did. That Friday had started like any other. Jaylen had stayed late at the library, losing track of time flipping through a worn copy of Hidden Figures. He liked stories about people who did big things quietly. People who didn't shout their way into history, they earned it. By the time he packed his bag and stepped outside, the sun was already dipping low, casting a burnt orange haze over the south side sidewalks. He checked his phone. 5:47 p.m. His mom wouldn't be home until after midnight. She was pulling a double shift again, trauma ward. Saturdays were always rough at the hospital. Jaylen didn't mind being alone. He took the long way home, past the plaza near Fulton and 9th. There was a shortcut through there, not the fastest, but his favorite. The water fountains danced in the center, jazz music played softly through outdoor speakers, and people, all kinds of people, walked by sipping coffee and laughing. That's when he saw it. A brown wallet, thick, stuffed, sitting on the stone edge of the fountain bench. No one around seemed to notice, but someone had to have dropped it just moments before. Jaylen bent down, picked it up, and looked around. And that's when he spotted him. The man, blue shirt, gray pants, heading toward the parking garage. Jaylen didn't think twice. He took off after him, wallet in hand. He weaved through the foot traffic, careful not to bump anyone, keeping his eyes locked on the man ahead. "Sir," he called out. "Hey, sir." But the man didn't hear, or maybe he didn't want to. Jaylen quickened his pace, holding the wallet up in front of him. "You drop this," he shouted, his voice cracking with urgency. Still nothing. The man had reached the parking structure by now, turning toward a row of black sedans. Jaylen picked up speed, sneakers slapping against the pavement, heart pounding, not from fear, just the pressure of doing the right thing before the chance slipped away. As he approached the entrance, he slowed down, not wanting to startle anyone. He called out again, "Sir, your wallet." That's when the man finally turned. Their eyes met for the first time. Jaylen held the wallet out, a little breathless. "You dropped this by the fountain," he said. But the man didn't look at the wallet. He looked at Jaylen's face, his hoodie, his skin. Then his expression changed. He didn't smile, didn't thank him. Instead, he frowned deep and immediate and stepped back. "What are you doing with that?" the man demanded. Jaylen blinked. "You just picked it up, you dropped it." The man's voice rose. "You trying to rob me, boy?" Jaylen's chest tightened. "No, I was just—" "Thief!" the man barked, loud enough to turn heads. And just like that, it happened. In the space of one look, one assumption, Jaylen went from a boy returning a wallet to a suspect. Not because of what he'd done, but because of what he looked like. He took a half step back, stunned, confused. Then came the footsteps, the voices, the crowd. The phones came out. The moment that would go viral had just begun. But Jaylen didn't know that yet. All he knew was he'd done the right thing. And somehow it was turning against him. The man didn't wait for an explanation. He lunged forward and grabbed Jaylen by the wrist, snatching the wallet from his hand like it had been stolen. "I told you this was mine," he barked, turning to the crowd now forming around them. "He was running with it." Jaylen's eyes widened. "No, I was running after you." "Right," the man scoffed. "Sure you were." Someone in the crowd mumbled, "Looks like he got caught red-handed." Another whispered, "Where's his parents?" Jaylen's cheeks burned. His throat tightened. He wanted to speak, to shout even, but every word he tried to form felt like it would come out wrong. Loud, threatening, dangerous. He remembered what his mom had always told him. Your tone can get you in trouble before your words ever do. Just then, a plaza security guard jogged over. White polo, utility belt, walkie-talkie in hand. "What's going on here?" he asked. "This kid tried to run off with my wallet," the man declared, puffing his chest. "I caught him just in time." The guard turned to Jaylen. "Is that true?" Jaylen looked up, lips parting but hesitating. Every instinct told him to explain, but the man's eyes were still burning into him, the crowd still staring. He felt smaller than ever. "I found it," Jaylen said quietly, "on the ground. I was just trying to return it." The man cut in. "Yeah, after you rifled through it, I bet." "I didn't open it." The guard narrowed his eyes. "Do you have ID, son?" Jaylen shook his head. "No, sir." The man jumped on that. "No ID. Running from the scene. Caught with the wallet in hand. What else do you need?" The guard sighed. "We'll wait for the police. They can sort it out." Jaylen's heart sank. He hadn't stolen anything. But now, he was being treated like a criminal. And the people watching, they didn't know his story. They only saw what they expected to see. The guard gestured for Jaylen to sit on the concrete bench near the edge of the plaza. Jaylen obeyed without protest. His hands rested on his lap, his hoodie sleeves still damp from the earlier rain. His backpack lay by, his feet unopened. The man paced a few feet away, still muttering loud enough for the bystanders to hear. This city's going downhill. No consequences for these kids anymore. That's the problem. Jaylen didn't look up. He could feel the phones on him. Someone across the street had started live streaming. Another had posted a picture. No one asked him what happened. No one asked his name. A woman approached the man. "Are you sure he took it?" "I saw it in his hand. But maybe he found it." "He was running," the man snapped. "What does that tell you?" Jaylen finally raised his eyes. He wasn't crying. Not yet. But something in his gaze said more than tears ever could. He looked at the woman, then the man, then at the camera pointed in his direction. And quietly, he pulled his phone from his pocket. His hands were steady now. He opened his voice recorder, tapped playback. A faint recording began to play his own voice from earlier, captured in tinny audio. "Sir, you dropped this." A pause. Then again, louder. "Sir? Your wallet?" People nearby froze. The security guard turned toward the sound. "What's that?" Jaylen answered softly. "My phone's been recording since I picked it up." The man's eyes narrowed. "You're saying you have proof?" Jaylen didn't answer. But he didn't have to. Because just then, one of the security cameras on the building behind them were moving slightly in its housing. Watching. Recording. And far above, beyond the eyes of the crowd in judgment, the truth was already being stored, waiting for someone to press play. The man took a step back, arms crossed. "Oh, so now you're playing tech tricks, huh?" he muttered. "Convenient that you start recording after you already had it." Jaylen didn't respond. The guard took the phone, listened again. The audio was short but clear. His eyes flicked toward the security camera perched above the plaza entrance. Then to the small booth near the parking lot where the security monitor was located. "I'll go check the footage," the guard said, mostly to himself. The man rolled his eyes. "Check all you want." He still had it in his hand. Still ran. Jaylen sat still, hands folded, trying to keep his breathing even. Minutes passed. The crowd didn't leave. If anything, it grew larger, drawn in by the drama, the accusation, the sight of a young black kid seated on a bench beside a visibly agitated white man. Some whispered. Some filmed. No one intervened. No one asked Jaylen what had actually happened. Except one voice. A soft one. From the back of the group. A boy, maybe 15, stepped forward. He wore a school uniform and carried a skateboard under one arm. "I saw him pick it up," the boy said. The man turned. "What?" "He wasn't stealing. I was sitting on the steps by the fountain. I saw it fall out of your pocket when you stood up. He picked it up and ran after you." Jaylen looked up, startled. The boy nodded at him, then turned to the guard, who was returning from the security booth. The guard's face was different now, tighter. He held a tablet showing paused footage. "This shows everything," the guard said. "He picked it up and tried to call out. Ran straight after you." The crowd hushed. The man stared at the screen, his lips pressed into a thin line. Still, he didn't say anything. But Jaylen saw the shift. The moment where confidence turned into something else. Shame. The man's arms slowly dropped to his sides. He glanced around at the crowd, at the cameras, at the teenager who had spoken up. Then finally, at Jaylen. His mouth opened, but no apology came out. Just air. The security guard turned to Jaylen. "You okay, kid?" Jaylen nodded faintly. "Yeah, I just wanted to give it back." The guard sighed, eyes still scanning the crowd. "You're free to go. Sorry for the misunderstanding." Jaylen stood up slowly. The weight of the moment clung to him like the humidity in the air. The man stepped forward. "Look, kid," he began, voice tight, hesitant. "I didn't know." Jaylen stared at him, silent. "I overreacted," the man added, more to himself than anyone else. "You startled me." Jaylen blinked once, then twice. He wasn't sure what hurt more, the accusation or the fact that now, with all the proof laid bare, that was all the man could say. A guard handed Jaylen his backpack. He slung it over one shoulder. And as he turned to leave, a woman in the crowd gently touched his arm. "Good job, young man," she said softly. "Don't let them make you small." Jaylen didn't respond. He just kept walking through the plaza, past the fountain, past the people who now saw him differently than they had just minutes before. Not as a thief, but not quite as innocent either. Just complicated. A story to tell, a clip to share, a lesson to dissect. But to Jaylen, it wasn't a story. It was his life. And it had almost gone the other way. The boy with the skateboard caught up beside him. "You okay, bro?" Jaylen nodded. "Thanks for saying something." The boy shrugged. "Ain't right, what they did. I've seen it before." They walked a few steps in silence. Then Jaylen spoke again, voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't even think twice. Just wanted to do the right thing." The other boy glanced at him. "You did." By the time Jaylen got home, the sky had turned a soft, muted gray. He didn't tell his mom what happened. Not because he was hiding it, but because she was already so tired. Her eyes were heavy, her body worn down from 12 hours on her feet. She kissed his forehead, heated up leftovers, and sat beside him in silence while the microwave hummed. Jaylen ate quietly, then excused himself and went to his room. He lay on his bed with his headphones on, but no music played, just the soft hiss of silence. His phone buzzed. A text from Marcus, the boy with the skateboard. "Bro, you're on TikTok." Then a link. Jaylen clicked it. And there it was. A 30-second video, shot vertically, captioned, "They thought he stole it. But wait till you see what really happened. Number wrongfully accused number, Jaylen truth." It had over 150,000 views. He hit play. The video opened with the man shouting, "Stop him!" Cut to Jaylen standing frozen, clutching the wallet. Then the teen's voice saying, "I saw him pick it up. He was returning it." Then a clip of the security camera footage, low-res but clear enough. Jaylen picking up the wallet and jogging after the man. The final shot zoomed in on Jaylen's face as he said, "I just wanted to give it back." The comment section was exploding. The fact he had to prove he wasn't stealing Ma? So brave. The other kid too. This happens every day, and only sometimes gets caught on camera. I would have done the same. Props to Jaylen. Where's the apology though? Jaylen stared at the screen. Somewhere, somehow, people knew his name. It didn't make him feel famous. It made him feel seen. And that was something rare. He scrolled again. New videos, different angles. People had recorded parts he hadn't even noticed. The argument, the silence, the moment he held the wallet out like it was evidence of his innocence, not kindness. Within an hour, number Jaylen Brooks was trending in the city. By morning, it would go national. But Jaylen didn't know that yet. He just lay there, staring at the glow of his screen in the dark, wondering how close he'd come to being another headline that said something very different. By sunrise, Jaylen's name was everywhere. Local news anchors ran the story with captions like, "Teen mistakenly accused of theft, proves his innocence with audio and surveillance." Morning talk shows picked it up. Twitter was ablaze. And someone he didn't know who had created a digital slideshow with side-by-side screenshots. One of the man pointing. One of Jaylen offering the wallet. One of the security footage showing the truth. The caption was simple. "This is why we record. This is why we speak up. This is why we don't assume." At school, Jaylen barely made it to his locker before being surrounded. Some kids gave him high fives. Others stared like they were looking at someone they thought they knew, but now weren't so sure. He didn't like the attention. He didn't want to be that kid from the video. He just wanted things to go back to the way they were, when good deeds didn't need proof, and kindness didn't need an alibi. By third period, a guidance counselor pulled him aside. "They're asking if you'll come on the local station," she said gently. "You don't have to, but they'd like your voice heard." Jaylen shook his head. "I don't want to be on television." She nodded, understanding. "Can I say something on your behalf?" He hesitated, then nodded. "Just tell them, I didn't want attention. I just wanted to do the right thing. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. The man, Harold Green, the one who had accused him, went on camera. In a press conference held on the steps of his office building, surrounded by reporters and flashing microphones, he said, "I made a mistake. A serious one. I reacted out of fear. But that fear came from my own bias, not from that boy's actions. Jaylen Brooks did nothing wrong. In fact, he did everything right. I owe him and his family an apology. And I owe the community something more: reflection." It didn't erase what had happened. But it mattered. The clip of the apology went viral too. Some people praised him for admitting fault. Others asked, would he have apologized if there were no camera? Jaylen didn't say anything. He just watched from his phone. Watched the man who had accused him now trying to make things right. It didn't make the fear go away, or the humiliation. But it made one thing clear. The world had seen what happened. And for once, they had listened. For most people, Harold Green was just another name in finance. He sat on boards, attended galas, and made polite speeches with words like community and legacy sprinkled throughout. But none of those speeches had ever made headlines. Until now. After the video surfaced and his reaction went viral for all the wrong reasons, Harold's inbox exploded. Some were supportive. Most were not. You judged a kid because of his skin? You nearly ruined a young life in under 60 seconds. How many other Jaylens never had a camera there to protect them? Harold read them. Every one. He didn't respond. He didn't sleep much either. He kept seeing the boy's face. That frozen moment, when Jaylen had held out the wallet like it was proof of his humanity. He'd been angry at first, defensive, told himself it was a misunderstanding, a mistake, a blur of the moment type of thing. But the more he saw the footage, the more he realized it wasn't blurry at all. It was clear, devastatingly clear. He'd looked at a kid and seen threat before intention, guilt before grace. And worst of all, he hadn't even asked for the boy's name before calling him a thief. Harold sat alone in his office, watching the apology video back. His own face looked foreign to him, tired, gray. But what haunted him wasn't what he said. It was what Jaylen didn't. No anger, no yelling, just quiet, dignified, resigned. That silence spoke louder than any press conference. The next morning, Harold showed up unannounced at Southside Middle School. Not with cameras, not with a PR team, just himself holding a simple envelope. He asked the front office if he could leave something for Jaylen Brooks. The secretary looked skeptical until she opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter and a scholarship certificate fully funded for any school Jaylen chose in the future. No branding, no press, just a quiet attempt at restitution. Jaylen's mom got the call first. She came down to the school and sat with her son in the counselor's office, holding the envelope in her lap. She didn't open it right away. "Do you want to read it?" she asked him. Jaylen shrugged. "You can." She read aloud. "Jaylen, you showed me something I didn't expect to see. Not just the truth, but the way you carried it. You didn't owe me grace, but you gave it anyway. I hope this gift helps you go further than I ever did. Not just in school, but in the kind of man you already are becoming. Harold." Jaylen sat quiet for a long time. Then softly, "I don't want his money." His mom nodded slowly. "You don't have to take it. That's your choice." Jaylen looked up at her. "But if I do," he said, "it won't be because I forgive him. It'll be because I want to prove he was wrong about me, and maybe I can help someone else down the line." She smiled. "That sounds like a reason I'd be proud of." Later that week, the school invited Harold to a student-led roundtable on racial bias and youth justice. He didn't speak much. He listened. For once, he didn't lead the conversation. He just sat beside the students and heard what he had once refused to see. And in that silence, he finally began to understand. This wasn't just about making things right. It was about learning how wrong things had been for far too long. Jaylen never became a public speaker. He didn't tour schools. He didn't start a foundation. He didn't even post about what happened. But somehow, his silence spoke louder than any spotlight ever could. In the weeks that followed, people kept asking for interviews, podcasts, newspapers, online panels. But Jaylen always said no. Not because he didn't have something to say, but because he didn't feel like he should have to explain why doing the right thing nearly cost him his dignity. Instead, he went back to his routine. School, library, homework. The same quiet walks home past the plaza, though now people waved. Some smiled. A few even apologized. But the thing is, Jaylen hadn't changed. They had. For years, his mother had taught him, your worth isn't based on who believes in you. It's based on what you believe about yourself. Now he understood what she meant. What hurt wasn't that one man accused him. It was how easily everyone else believed it. How no one asked. How no one hesitated. He hadn't been tried in court. He'd been tried in real time, judged by glances, convicted by silence. And if not for the camera, the audio, the boy with the skateboard, the story might have ended very differently. It wasn't justice that saved him. It was proof. And that truth, that painful truth, stayed with him long after the headlines faded. Jaylen began journaling more. Not to vent, not even to document, but to remember. He wrote about the feeling of cold concrete under him while he waited on that bench. About the look on the man's face, not just accusing, but certain. About how quickly, I found this, turned into, he stole that. He wrote about silence, too. Not just his own, but everyone else's. The silence of people watching but not speaking. The silence of justice when it arrives too late or not at all. One page in his notebook was left blank. At the top he wrote, for the ones who didn't have cameras. For the ones who didn't get to explain. For the ones who were right, but still got labeled wrong. That page stayed empty. Because it wasn't his story to fill. It was his reminder to listen when others were finally ready to speak. And that became his quiet mission. Not to be famous. Not to be exceptional. But to be the kind of person who sees the moment before judgment and waits. Waits to ask. Waits to understand. Waits to give the benefit of the doubt. Because he knew better than most. Sometimes doing the right thing isn't enough to protect you. But it's still worth doing. Every single time. This story isn't about a wallet, or a misunderstanding, or even about one boy's bravery. It's about a system of snap judgments, where appearances become evidence, and silence becomes guilt. It's about how easy it is to be wrong, and how rare it is to admit it. Jaylen didn't want revenge. He didn't post a speech. He didn't ask for sympathy. He just wanted someone, anyone, to believe he was telling the truth. He shouldn't have needed a camera, or a voice memo, or a stranger to vouch for him. But he did. Because in a world where truth is too often dismissed without proof, he had to carry the burden of evidence just to be treated with basic decency. So here's the quiet truth. Jaylen was lucky. He was lucky someone recorded. He was lucky there was a camera. He was lucky someone spoke up. Most aren't. And that's where you come in. Because hidden justice isn't just a name. It's a mission. To surface the stories that could have been buried. To protect the voices that might have been ignored. To remind the world that kindness doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be seen. So if this story moved you, if it made you pause, if it made you ask yourself, what would I have assumed? Then maybe that's where change begins. Not in the loudest moment, but in the next silent one, when you choose to wait, to ask, to see beyond the surface. If stories like Jaylen's matter to you, and if you believe in shining a light on the quiet truths most people overlook, then subscribe to Hidden Justice. Because every time you do, you help make sure these stories are heard. Not just by the curious, but by those who need to understand. Shared Jaylen's story. Not to make it viral, but to make it matter. Because next time, there might not be a camera. Only you. Hidden justice.